This week, I'll be talking about my freelance consulting, where I'm going to walk you through what sparked the idea, why I created this, and of course, what are the benefits to having your own side hustle on top of your 9 to 5 in today's environment.
It's time to get down to business.
So, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I remember I was watching a podcast, The Diary of a CEO, and there was a feature with a person called Daniel Priestley.
The thing is, we need to sharpen our ideas in the market, not in our minds. So what we have to do is go make contact with other people and see what they say and see what they think. So we have to conduct tests where we fail fast and fail cheap if we fail at all.
So in the form of a mailing list, you can say that I will be providing such and such a service, such and such a business is going to exist, and you just see how many people are going to be interested, how many people sign up to the mailing list. If it's a small amount, potentially there's no market for it. Or if it's a larger amount, of course, then you have that direct feedback before you even commit to it, before you spend a considerable amount of time or money into your business. You can see straight away what's it going to look like with a pretty good accuracy. In the event that you work in finance and tech, if you work in a service-based industry, you can create a mailing list. In my case, as a compliance officer, I can set up a mailing list to say that I'll be offering such and such a course. What do you think would be a fair price for it? A bit of a survey, and then say that please sign up below, enter your email, and once the product is ready, I will email you and you'll be able to, of course, continue forward that way. That's where the interest kind of came to be. But why the idea even started in the first place was more of a half-joking moment that actually created this entire possibility for me. I used to visit, and I still do, visit my former employer every so often. There was one day that I visited them, and they basically said that, we're having such and such an issue. We could really use a bit of a hand because at the moment, we're feeling a bit short-staffed. We have a lot of projects going on, and it would be great to have another pair of hands. And I have jokingly offered that, outside of my main 9 to 5, I'd love to be able to kind of assist you with the projects that you are doing. I'd love to be able to kind of contribute to us.
So let's get it done.
And so one thing led to the next, and within the space of a few weeks, my former boss kind of reached out to me. He said, hey, listen, you remember that time when you kind of offered your services to us? And I told him, yeah, I'd love to be able to help you if it's something that you're interested in. And that actually led me with my first freelance contract as a compliance officer, where I was working on actually optimizing their workflow and automating the compliance side of things for them. Well, what if I try to kind of offer these exact same services, not just to my former employers, not just to friends, but what if I take it to a broader market? What if I use my references, my kind of reputation to take me that little bit further, acquire new clients, see what can be done, and take it from there? So within a period of about 3 to 4 months, I actually acquired myself another client. At that moment, I realized that this isn't just a freelancing side gig. This is actually something that could become a consulting business further down the road. And then with these two clients, I decided, the best way for me to actually grow my business would be to actually commit to it rather than doing it 20 hours a week at the end of my 9 to 5.
The reason so few people understand success and becoming successful and getting to where they want to go is because consistency never looks impressive in the moment, only at the end.
What if I were to take some time off from my main employment to focus on my side project? And of course, this is where I'm kind of leading ultimately into where I will be taking a parental leave for the purpose of course, growing my main business, growing the different avenues that interest me, trying to learn more and commit to it that way. And that's kind of the ultimate plan at this moment in time, where I'll have 1 year to try it out. As I need to explain the context in Luxembourg that exists. So a compliance officer in Luxembourg is a mandatory position for any financial services company. This position, ultimately, you are the guardrail on the main road. And if it starts to kind of go a bit off course, The guardrail is there to make sure that the vehicle, the business, continues going on the right path. Since you physically need to have a compliance officer here on the ground in Luxembourg, it cannot be a remote consultant somewhere in the Philippines. It cannot be somebody that's living, for example, in the south of France or in the US. It needs to be somebody that's within a commuting distance to Luxembourg. And so that way, of course, the market exists. There are always businesses, there's always consultancies that are always trying to sell their compliance officers to newly established businesses. The main things that I do, of course, apart from helping them create the guardrails, upkeep these guardrails, the compliance, the regulatory aspect of it, I also help with automation of tasks.
Flankers!
We can look at it from different aspects where you have a client that needs to be onboarded. The documentation that they provide for the onboarding process, most of it can be automated. Additionally, we can also look at it from a separate point. There's different aspects to the client lifecycle that exist, ranging from the onboarding period, the ongoing monitoring. Most of it can be automated for more simple clients. It can be partially automated for the medium risk. And then for high risk, of course, you try to use AI to simplify the task, to speed up the task. You actually focus on what matters, the decision-making process. So the decision-making is something that AI cannot replicate. It cannot decide for you whether it's a good or a bad thing.
That's someone else's problem.
Because all AI is a massive mix of information, and it looks for the most reasonable answer based on the information available online.
I think it's a good idea, and I'm standby.
And so because of that, I still fundamentally believe that a compliance officer is going to be a position that will exist. Of course, it will change in the sense that we will use AI as an additional tool to help us actually carry out our job, and we focus more on the decision-making aspect as opposed to the operational matters. So that we spend less time on doing monkey work. There were a few different ways that I did it, and both of them worked just to slightly different degrees. One was actually cold mailing different companies that are within the sphere of interest that I have.
Hello, is it me you're looking for?
And the other one was actually applying to open roles that they have. During the interview, I would mention, like, I would like to offer my services as an interim compliance officer for you to kind of like carry out this transition where you're currently understaffed and you want to hire someone as soon as possible. This transition period can last a month, 2 months, 3 months. And I would like to offer my service to kind of help you integrate this period. And then once you finally hire the new person, I will upskill them. And then, of course, they will be able to take over fully without any gaps involved within the process. But the one that worked better was actually LinkedIn, quite simply because when you reach out to a company on the main email address, the likelihood of them responding to you to offering consultancy service are pretty much null, because let's be fair, you get tons of people trying to sell you things, different services. This way you kind of move ahead. And through LinkedIn, through good word of mouth references, that's how I ultimately managed to land a second contract with another client. Do this. Apart from the monetary aspect, where of course you have your main 9 to 5 plus a side gig where you will earn a bit more money, you can also look at it from a skill set perspective. The skills that you get when you are being an entrepreneur or a freelancer are different, and the mindset that you have is just different to what you have in your regular 9 to 5. You go to your 9 to 5 because you have to. Most of the time, people go there because they have bills to pay. They want to ultimately save up money so they can do a greater purchase like a house or a car, and of course to retire ultimately. So these are 3 very basic things, and that's the reason why most of us work. But if you look at it from a different aspect, where if you now have your side gig on the side, where you're able to monetize and actually reap the fruit that you sow, what ends up happening is that your mindset changes. You focus on how you can make more of this, because first of all, you're being paid at a higher rate per hour than you would in your regular 9 to 5 in most cases. At the same time, if you do something that you're good at, you can always get more value for it. If you do something that you're interested about, something that you're passionate about, something that kind of gets you up and you're excited to talk about it, to think about it, In that aspect, if you actually enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't matter whether there's a lot of clients that are going to be purchasing your services. It's the small kind of increments that matter. So as long as you're 1% better per month, at the end of the year, that aggregates. At a certain point, it just becomes an avalanche. Regardless of whether you want to pursue being a freelancer, whether you want to pursue having your own side gig, the ultimate difference between you and the person that chooses not to do that is honestly quite great. At a time where most professions, most jobs can be outsourced to a cheaper region, to AI, we need to think of ways to ensure that we keep our position. We need to find ways to use these new technologies to be one step ahead of the curve every single time. But if you're always kind of like thinking ahead, so that's the entrepreneurship and the freelance aspect, always be one step ahead and preparing for it.
What do you want from me?
You become a valuable member. You become somebody that can actually contribute additionally. You're not looking at your regular roles. You're looking at ways to optimize it. You challenge the norm that exists. You look at new tools. How can they help improve the workflow?
I can do your job. You could never do my job. Just remember that.
And so with that kind of mindset, you just need to always remain one step ahead of the curve. That way, so you can safeguard your own future. So regardless of whether you're doing it for money, whether you're doing it for your interest, what makes you more wanted?
We best be clear about that right now.
And what makes you stand out from everybody else that's within the exact same position as you? I would advocate for people to actually monetize on things that they enjoy. If you enjoy gaming, maybe try streaming. If you enjoy, for example, watching YouTube videos, potentially you could work on editing. If you enjoy the work that you're doing, try to find a way to make a bit more from it. If you are an employee, well, maybe you can take additional courses to become a bit more knowledgeable about the entire process. Maybe you can start your own freelance to actually earn a bit more money. So as the saying goes, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're not actually working a single day. And I believe that's true. But you need to reach that point where the stress of starting, the stress of doing something new, juggling multiple income streams, at a certain point you become acclimatized to all of us. And so once you reach that point, and however long it's going to take you, I believe that's the point where you become comfortable, where you're confident in your skill set, and you're actually able to succeed.
Hell yeah. Let's roll.
And so for those exact reasons, this is why I started this entire journey. This is why I want to build it and document the entire process. So even if it helps one or two new people start off something that they're truly interested about, I will believe that this channel would have been ultimately worth it.
I have dreamed that one day Vast Ventures will reach 1,000 followers and that all your dreams come true.
So you just need to commit and keep going, even if it's difficult for the first immediate future. If it's something that you're interested about, go for it. So next week, I'll be talking about my second business venture, where I'm looking at starting a pub in Panama. And I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the atmosphere there, the business environment that exists in Panama, and what I'm actually looking at doing over there. So see you next week.